Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Hopefully they can hear us, Kel.
Not on mute.
No, we're not on mute. We're all live and ready to go. Hello. Here we are.
Here we are.
And so it's good evening from me, and it's good evening.
Good evening from him.
Yeah, good evening from me. That's it.
I learnt.
So this is not quite the same as we've had before, which is the pre-dinner drinks nonsense. Although we are drinking.
It's not a school night. So
no, it's not a school night. We need it to get by these days. It's part and parcel of our daily routine. So the idea of today is genuinely a little bit of a question and answer session about dancing. Of course, you can ask us anything you want, but I have pre-recorded a little workshop lecture video for you that you can sit back and enjoy shortly. But before that, we'll just see if anyone's got anything to say. That's the idea of this, really.
But we can't hear them through here. So.
No, we can't, but they're going to message us. There's a thing on the screen, Scale. It says, send us your questions by commenting on Facebook, YouTube, or via WhatsApp.
I didn't read that.
Did you not read the thing on the screen that's right in front of you?
No, I did not, darling.
Well, that's quite normal.
Sorry.
That's okay. It smells quite nice, doesn't it?
I haven't tried it yet. Oh, it does smell nice.
It's amazing how apple juice smells different in a wine glass, isn't it?
Is it apple?
It's apple juice. Yeah.
It's not cloudy apple, though.
No, it's not. We couldn't afford cloudy apple juice. Yeah. So I did have the idea of this as well is that what we discussed today, aside from the video that I'm going to play you, will form the basis of a little video that I'm going to pre-record tomorrow for next Friday. So we'll talk about some dancing stuff, and then I'll say, well, that sounds like a good thing. I'll show you how to do that or whatever for next week.
Yeah. So you're basically going to do like little mini lectures, aren't
Yeah, little mini lectures.
Dancing
lectures. Dancing related.
He's not going to lecture you on how to drive or anything like that.
Well, I could. But Roz says recommend any wine. So yes, there's lots of different wines we could recommend.
Yes,
we
good
did
wine.
Actually, we did say we were going to do that, didn't we?
Yeah, we did actually. We could do that as well.
We'll do a little wine night.
We could.
Yeah, they'll all have to donate though, because otherwise we'll run out.
We'll have to get our friend Jan.
Yeah.
French and?
A friend Janj. You can't speak. You only had a mouthful. Yeah. You've not had anything for a week, have you?
All week we haven't had anything, so it's quite exciting.
Yeah. Yes.
I didn't actually read the label what this was called, so I couldn't even tell you.
It's a white wine.
It's white.
Oh, turn that off. Okay. Hi, James and Kelly. Would it be possible for you to dance with your back to us to show us the dance in Zoom, please? Well, I can, but my backside is not necessarily my best feature.
Is this so you can copy the steps?
Well, I can do that. I can do that to as a pre-recorded thing for the routines that we do.
You didn't have to wait till now. You could have to ask us that, I suppose.
Yeah. Can you tell me when you've started? We have started.
We have started.
We have started. Yes.
They don't need a special link.
No. Well, it's all there on YouTube. It's going. Excellent stream as well. We shouldn't have any stream issues these days as well, because beginning of the year we changed our broadband provider. We got rid of Virgin and got this new local company called Tube, and it's almost half the price, isn't it? And we get almost a gigabyte of data download and upload. It's amazing. So uploading and downloading should be super easy. Now Margaret Latter says she's got a question, but she hasn't asked it. She's just said, I've got a question.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Anytime you're ready, Margaret, you may ask a question. So I guess some people haven't necessarily joined until we've started, perhaps. But
Roz is typing.
It's always good. It's always good. See, we like
maybe
questions.
There's a bit of a delay.
There's always a delay. There's always a delay.
Okay.
Oh dear. We're going to try and keep it relatively civil and normal. Who needs a virgin anyway? Well,
who needs a virgin anyway?
She's trying to be funny. I don't think with that much of a delay. Margaret's asked a question, said that she's got a question, but no, hasn't asked it. Tonight's lecture is about sway. You may have seen from the thing that I wrote earlier on Facebook, if you saw it or not. Sarah Ball's in now. She's here. Good. So yeah, I've got a little workshop on sway that I've done for you, and I'll play that in a minute, and you can then talk about it afterwards. Now, Ray Hughes has said, good evening both.
sway?
What is sway, please? We are novices, as you know. Well,
You'll find out.
You'll find
soon.
out. You'll
Yeah.
find out soon enough what sway is.
James has done a mini lecture on sway.
I have. So, do you know what? I think we might just do it. I might just play the video.
Yeah. And then they might have more questions.
They'll have more
after
questions
that, won't
afterwards, won't they?
Okay.
Yeah. So,
All right.
but it'd be a good idea to get some other questions before that, so I know that I'm going to plan for next week. Because after the video, they might have questions.
Okay, you can ask some questions about the video, and also if you've got a topic you want us to discuss for next
Well,
week.
I'm trying to do that now. Margaret still hasn't told us what her question is.
Maybe she lost it. Lost the.
Yeah. So if no one's got anything else to ask us pressing at the moment, someone else has already messaged us. Good evening, Glenworth Beauties. They've already asked us some questions, which is a great one actually. So it came from Team Brighton. It's which is Sarah Ball, and she asked about straight legs in Latin, and any particular steps in Latin where you have your heels off the floor, both heels off the floor at any given time. The only one off the top of my head that I can think of would be in samba. In any kind of action where you've got the samba bounce,
Yeah, where you do that
midpoint
little,
passing through, you've got both heels off the floor.
where
So
you
that
do
would
little
be
contraction action.
so like a Botafogo,
Yeah.
a Volta, Crescendo
Yeah.
walk.
Yeah, there's moments, isn't there?
Yeah, I think many times in foxtrot,
Can't think of anything
in samba, where you would when you pass your feet, that's when you'd have a mini contraction through the base, through the body, and your heels will come off the floor. Because when you first learn samba, people talk about a samba bounce, and it bounces when you first do it. You bounce up and down like a little,
It's not really that.
like you're on a
is
pogo stick. Now you don't want to do that, of course. You need to control your bounce through your body, and in doing so, your heels come off the floor. And so I can show you that. Not now, but I can show you that at some point. We can perhaps talk about that. That's not a full-on 30-minute lecture, though. Maybe we'll have a lecture where we talk about little odds and sods.
You might have a lecture where you cover couple of different things.
Yes, of course.
Maybe.
So that's something I can talk about. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Margaret's come through with it finally. I'm going to read it as is.
Okay.
A common problem with us ladies, me especially, is that we need to cling on with our arms instead of using our upper body and strength in feet and legs. She's been writing this for a while. Please, could you remind us of the exercises to correct that?
Okay.
Yeah, I can. Okay, point taken. That's a Kelly one, I think. That's a Kelly exercise.
Core. It's all
Yeah,
about the core.
so maybe you
isn't
can
it?
pre-record some stuff tomorrow.
Not sure about that.
Why not?
I've told you why.
I know why.
Don't press
I know.
me.
I won't press you, I'll touch you.
Don't press me.
Right, okay, so what we'll do is we'll play the little video now that I've pre-recorded, and it's just over 30 minutes long, so there's lots there to listen to and engage with. There is some participation as well. You can get up and have a little go at some little bits. Nothing major. It's more of a listen and learn stuff, and then we can talk about it afterwards, and if you've got any more questions, anything relating to other things, we can address those and then formulate a little video for next week. All right? How do you think that went, Cal?
It all sounds very
sound good?
planned.
It does, doesn't it?
Organised.
I know. It does seem a bit too planned and too organised, doesn't it? But here we go. Anyway, so enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you like it. Hope it's informative. And please, any questions you've got, drop us a line, and we will help you to answer them. See you in about 30 minutes. Hello, everybody. James here from Dizzyfeet Dancing, and welcome to our little 30-minute workshops. And today we're going to be looking at sway. Now, the definition of sway is the inclination of the body towards centre of turn. It's important that you write that down because I will be testing you later. That does sound quite complicated, of course, but really it's not as tricky as it sounds. Now, we use sway in everyday life all the time when we're doing normal actions without necessarily realising that we're doing it. It's especially obvious when you're riding a bike. Now, those of you that can't ride a bike or need stabilisers, perhaps you should look at a different video, or maybe this is a little learning curve for you as well, perhaps. But take those stabilisers off, and when you go round a corner, when you turn the handlebars, you'll find that you have a slight turning of the body. So if I'm turning my handlebars to the right, my body will shape slightly and lean slightly to the right. Likewise, if I go to the left, it does the opposite. And that is sway. And what it does, it allows us to turn to the right or to the left without falling over.
All right. So that is what sway does. It allows us to do that without falling over. So if we were riding our bikes, unfortunately I haven't got a bike here with me today to show you as an example, but you just have to imagine. So I'm riding my bike and I decide to just turn the handlebars like that. Well, naturally, natural forces will throw me off my bike to the left if I don't sway or shape or incline myself towards the center of the turn. Now, when you're turning to the right, the center's over there somewhere. If you're traveling at a certain speed, of course, if you're turning to the left, it's over there somewhere. So that's what happens. Now, when we don't do that, it causes us lots of problems. And this is very relevant to dance, of course. So when you don't have the necessary or the appropriate sway when you're dancing, things can either feel very peculiar or you'll fall over. And no one wants to do either of those two things, really. We don't want to feel peculiar or fall over. It's often they go hand in hand. When you feel a bit peculiar, often fall over, especially after a few drinks, which is quite often, quite likely, many of us during these lockdown periods. I know it is for me. Anyway, enough of that. So how does that relate to dancing in a practical sense? And shall I talk about that? Shall I tell you? Let's. Okay, so first and foremost, when you first learn to dance, sway is really there mostly to make you look better. Because when you first learn to dance, you'll, generally speaking, unless you're some sort of gifted individual, you'll come in and your primary objective will be to put your feet one foot in front of the other and move around the floor. That's the objective initially. You won't be thinking, and also it's very difficult to think about two things at the same time. So you're worrying about where your feet are going and you're not going to be worrying about where your body is going, because we can't actually do two things at once. So you'll dance. If I did a social foxtrot, for instance, you do 1, 2, you just do stepping and then you just do something like that. And there's nothing going on with the body because you're preoccupied with what your feet are doing. Now, those of you that have been to one of my absolute beginner classes and may have learnt the social foxtrots, and even those of you that perhaps have just overheard, initially, when you don't need the sway, sway is there purely to give the illusion of enjoyment. Because when you're dancing sedately, likewise when you're riding your bike very, very slowly, you need very marginal amounts of sway. You don't really need a great deal. So if I'm doing a little bit of sway like this as I'm doing my social foxtrot, it just looks nice. It looks like I'm enjoying myself and enjoying the motion and the dance. Okay? It actually isn't there for any other purpose other than that. And also, you may remember that I said at the very beginning that sway is the inclination of the body towards the centre of turn. So generally speaking, it's only there when you're turning. Now, when you're not turning, it does facilitate movement and it does allow you to go past your partner, but ultimately it also makes it look nicer. There are other aspects as well that come into play, and one of those is what we call swing. But we're not going to talk about swing today. I might allude to it a bit later when I talk about something else. But generally speaking, I'm going to talk about turning actions where you are going to need to have sway. So we're going to look at sway in a particular figure to start with, and we'll use the natural turn in waltz as our benchmark figure for the moment. All right. Now I'm doing it as a man to start with, but the 6 steps of a natural turn in waltz, both the male and the female roles do the same steps, just at different times. So it's the same action, it's just whether you're going forward or whether you're going backwards. So it's exactly the same. So if we do it as a man, or the forward aspect first, sway doesn't happen on, in the waltz here, on the natural turn, doesn't happen on the first step, because we've got what's called CBM at this point here. Now, typically speaking, when we have CBM, which is the turn of the body towards the moving foot like so, we don't have any sways. It's very rare that we'd have sway at that point there, because that just makes us look a bit too cool, and we can't look too cool when we're doing the waltz. So you take a step, your body turns. That gives the indication to the person in front of you that there's going to be a turn, that you're going to do some sort of turn in the waltz in this context. Now, the sway happens as you leave that step and as you begin to turn. all right? Because on the first step, there is no turn. You're just preparing, essentially. You're getting ready. You popped your indicator on, ready to turn to the right. Now, the sway happens as you leave this foot, and then it goes to the right, okay? And then you sustain the sway as you close your feet. And that generally helps you to balance. Because if you were to sway, if you were to do the sway as you turn and then take the sway away as you close your feet, you will fall over. It doesn't allow you to balance. Now, what it does, I feel that as I sway here, I anchor myself to the right. That puts my weight to the right-hand side, which allows me, if I do this sideways, if I do it here actually. So I go straight, no turn. I'm preparing to turn, indicator on. And then I'm popping the sway on as I'm turning. Now this has anchored me here. My left leg's gone out of the way. Then this leg can close to my right, my left foot, sorry, easily. And it doesn't take me off balance. All right, so if you don't have the sway, you can't get this position. You can't balance it. Likewise, if I have no sway at all and just close my feet, I do it particularly badly, of course, it's going to hinder me. I'm going to want to fall over. So the sway anchors me to the right here, so that I can close my feet and maintain my balance easily, all right? So on a waltz, in the natural turn, when you're dancing forwards, over those 3 steps, you've got sway on 2 of them. So you have no sway on the first step, but then you've got sway on the second step and the third step being when you close, and then you lower. But as you lower, you're going to go back to neutral, because then we're going to start doing the backward action, okay, which may well be a forward action, depending on what you're doing. And then you're going to be starting the same process again, but in reverse. So if we look at that now, so when I dance backwards, again, no sway on the first step. I've got that little indicator, which has been given to me by the person who's coming forwards. This is why it's important that it's not just the leader that leads all the time. That makes sense. Bit of a ridiculous thing to say, really, to be honest, isn't it? Because a leader, by definition, is a leader. But the person moving forwards is typically in charge. The person moving backwards is being passive and receiving the weight and receiving the movements from the person coming forward. So when you're dancing in your partnership, you're always leading and following. You're taking it in turns, okay? So it's never just, unless you're dancing with me, of course, and then I'm always in charge. I've got hold of you and I'm moving you, it's my job. No, we take it in turns. So when Kelly and I dance, there are certain aspects that she's in charge of and there's certain aspects that I'm in charge of. Again, that's another topic about generalize. It's quite a general statement, but there are things that we have responsibilities for all the time. But in terms of this aspect, so when we're talking about the sway here, the person who's coming forward is indicating where we're going to turn, and then it's both of our jobs to produce the sway as we do it. Anyway, moving on. So if you're going backwards, you've indicated you're going to do this. I've put the CBM in, my body is turned towards my leg, so my left leg is going back, my right side's turned towards it, like so. So I know I'm going to be doing a turn. And here, the sway comes in as soon as that second step, the right foot goes into position. I'm very much anchored here now on my left foot, which helps me to balance. And then I close my left foot to my right foot, maintaining the sway, which not only does it look beautiful, but it allows me to balance perfectly on my feet. And then as I lower, it goes back to neutral, ready for the next step, which may or may not have sway depending on what I'm going to do. All right, so you don't sway. So if we look at a natural turn, you don't sway on the first step, you just have a little bit of turn in the body, okay, whether you're going forward or whether you're going backwards, all right? And then on the second step, you've got lots of sway going in, and then you keep that sway as you close your feet to stop you from falling over. The sway is the inclination of the body towards center of turn, but I also think of it as an anchor. I anchor myself to the center, to the inside, and then dance away from it, which creates that beautiful stretch. Now, another little thing to talk about with sway. Sway, the definition of it as well in the technique book, is that it comes from the floor. Now, sometimes that's very difficult to picture, because that would imply something like, it's difficult to even visualize at times, or even demonstrate, that you're swaying from the floor, something like that. It's very difficult to try and picture that, because the idea is that sway is just coming from the waist. Now, sway from the waist is called broken sway. And the idea of that being is that half of your body is doing something the other half isn't, so you're kind of broken at the waist. In motion, when you're moving, it's much easier to show that you're swaying from the floor when you're in motion. So that's the idea. Really, the feeling is that my sway is happening from the floor right the way through to the top of my head. Rather than, if I go to airplane mode, when I go to airplane mode, it's very easy to see. It's very easy to see this way. It's not just something like that. Many people, when they're dancing and they're first learning sway, will typically show me semaphore. And there's not a lot of call for semaphore these days at airports, I'm sure, because not so many planes are travelling. But if you've got a couple of table tennis bats, by all means practice at home, some big headphones on perhaps. But when we dance, we don't want to do any of that. So sway is not the movement of the arms at all. Sway is the whole body shaping either left or right. And when I say body, I mean legs as well. So the feeling should come from the floor right the way through the body to the top of the head. Now there are some great exercises you can use to do this, one of which is something like that, where you would, so we'll do this. Do you know what? We can do this. If you're watching this, just by all means just watch. You can, if you're sitting in a chair, just do it. Just do broken sway in your chair. Or if you fancy getting up off your bottom and having a little go, by all means, please do this along with me. So what you can do is you can stand with your weight on both feet for a second. I'm going to move to your right. And as you go to the right, you're going to take your left arm, right arm, because we're in reverse, aren't we? I always get so confused. You're going to take your right arm up over your head like that and feel that you shape and bring that leg in underneath you. So there's no weight in this foot. So this is a hesitation action that you would have in waltz and quickstep and foxtrot. So you're going to go to the right, you're going to bring that left leg in, and in doing so you're going to feel this stretch right the way across. And then you can do the same thing going the other way. Again, feeling that stretch. Okay? So we go to the right and we go to the left. Now, these sort of movements make me think of Thin Lizzy from TVAM. So perhaps next time, or when you're doing this on your own without me, maybe you can pop your leotards on. Black and white stripe, that rings bells to me. I don't know why that seems to stick in my head. Big curly hair, and you can have your sweatband on your head as well, which would be great. And that's quite useful. So yeah, I think of that when she was doing all these moves. I remember all of that. So anyway, I move to the right and swing the arm up. So my right side, if any of you have maybe a bit of lockdown curves, you can feel the side of your body creasing. And that means then you have produced sway. If it just breaks like that, of course, that's no good. This is the left, so there's two sides of the body working here. My right side is really stretching up as high as possible, and my left side is, I feel like this is pushing up this way to produce a crease through this side of my body. So I'm not just dropping a side, I'm lifting one side and feeling the other side still tries to stay as long as it was, which causes the creases. And then the same thing this side as well. So now my left side is trying to stretch more than the right, but the right side is still trying to stay upright, which is causing the curve and causing a bit of a crease through here. I think that's quite a good little exercise. It hurts me, hurts through here. So if it's hurting me, hopefully it's hurting you too, because I like to inflict pain, don't I? That's the idea. I don't really like to inflict pain. I'm joking. I don't at all. Don't at all. But it's all good. When you're using your body and you feel your body working, it's a good thing for you. It releases natural endorphins and you'll always feel good about it afterwards. So dancing should be a full body exercise and active workout. So you should be using your body. The more we use our bodies, the better we will dance. Anyway, back to sway. So that's a good exercise, to feel where the body's got to work. Now, I utilise that feeling all the time whenever I'm swaying. So if I go back into my waltz action, if I move forwards, so I've got the rotation here. Now, as I'm going to step to the side, I'm feeling that stretch through the side of my body And then as the right leg closes up, I'm on my toes this time rather than hesitating and dragging the foot, but I still feel I've got that same stretch coming through the right side as well as the left. Now, if I put my arms back down into dance position, or if I go to my airplane mode, I'm there, okay? So the feeling is I'm doing perhaps quite a lot, but visually it doesn't necessarily look a great deal, okay? So you wouldn't want to be doing too much. Now, this moves me on to another little point about sway. So, as we said before, the definition of sway is the inclination of the body towards centre of turn. Remember that, write it down. You will be tested. Sway is proportional to how fast or how much you move forward or backwards. So it's very important that those two things balance themselves out, because we'll go back to the other thing we talked about earlier, where without sway, you can feel a bit awkward or peculiar. Now, likewise, if you've got too much sway, you can also look awkward and feel peculiar. So it's important to get a balance. Dancing is always about a balance, not just in a visual sense, but actually in a physical sense of being balanced over your feet. You can never do anything unless you're balanced. If every time you stood up and fell over, it's very difficult. This is why restaurants on frozen lakes just don't work very well, because the waiters always drop all the food, because they're trying to carry the food across the ice and they just slip over all the time. So it's pointless. And those things, they fell flat on their face. So if you've invested in those, I'm very sorry for you. But they just don't work. So when you're out of balance and not in balance, things don't work as well. So when you're on balance, things work much better. And it's easy to think, because you're also not trying to worry about surviving, which I know from my own experience as a dancer. When I didn't understand balance enough, all you're worried about is trying to survive. You're literally like Bambi on ice. So you're dancing and hoping for the best, that you're going to be on your feet. And if you're always going into things with fear in that respect, and if you're going to fall over, you can't ever dance your best. Anyway, these things take practice though, unfortunately. So we've done this exercise before, but I'm not going to use that specific exercise. I'm going to develop it slightly. But we've done this one before, where we do what we call our drive actions, where we move forward and backwards, to develop how we move forwards and how we move backwards in our swing dances in ballroom. Now that's important to understand in how you move, because this amount of drive, so however much you put in here, will be directly proportional to how much you sway. I like to give it a number. So if I move a 5, I've got to sway a 5. So if I give me some space, so if I drive a 5, then I can sway a 5 and balance it, and it's nice and easy. If, however, I move a 1 and sway a 5, balance is a bit dodgy, and it looks more awkward than in terms of feeling, because it doesn't look quite right. I can make it work, but it just doesn't look very, very good. And likewise, if I move a 5, or let's say I move a 7 and only sway a 2, I'm falling over again, because I've got no anchor and I've got no balance. And exactly the same thing will apply when you move backwards. If I move backwards with a 5, that time I moved backwards with a 5 and swayed with about a 3. So that was the bad example, of course. That's what I planned to do. So if I move backwards for a 5 and then sway for a 5, it's very easy to balance. However, of course, if one or the other isn't balanced with each other, it's very difficult. But these things, unfortunately, you can only get with time and practice. The other thing, of course, to bear in mind is that when you're doing this, you're not doing it on your own. You're doing it with a partner. Those of you that don't have permanent dance partners at the moment, of course, can't practice this. But if you do have a partner, of course, at home, lying around somewhere in a cupboard, you can get them out of the cupboard and you can have a little go with them, can't you? But of course, you've got to do the same thing each time. So it's important to always repeat and do the same amount each time, to try and replicate it, because that's the only way you'll get used to it. And that only comes through feel and practice. But generally speaking, if you get the general gist of that, and that you give everything the same level of energy, then it should work. It should work. But first of all, you've actually got to know to do it and when to do it. So if we go back to the waltz example, we're going to go to foxtrot in a second, and then we're going to do a spin just to complicate matters. So when you're doing the waltz, so you've got 6 steps in your natural turn. So if you take the 1 and the 4, so 1 and 4, whether you're going forward or backwards, no sway. And then 2, 3, and then 5 and 6, you've got sway. And it's always going to be the direction of the leading foot. So here's another little top tip for you to learn about sway in the waltz and most dances. However, there are a few little changes, which I'll allude to in a second. So when we do a waltz, if you go forward on the right, you're going to sway to the right. If you go back on the left, you're going to sway to the left. And likewise, if you go like a reverse turn in waltz, if you go forward on the left, you're going to sway to the left. And if you go back on the right, you're going to sway to the right. And it is that simple. And typically speaking, in basic figures, where you close your feet in waltz, you will sway a different side every 3 steps. So therefore, it makes it look nice and it looks normal. All right? So, and it's every 3rd step will be a change of sway. All right? And that first step will be neutral. Again, that makes it look nice because you come back to neutral and then you shape again. Come back to neutral and then shape again. Because if you were to do something like this, which is what people tend to do when they first learn sway, and we're back to looking awkward again, because the amount of sway is disproportionate to the amount of movement. So the idea, of course, would be no sway, sway, no sway, sway, no sway, sway, for example, okay? And that makes it look nice, but it's changing every 3rd step in a sense. And it's the same moving backwards, of course, as well. So try and remember that it's proportional to how much you move. So if you're on your bike again and you're going downhill really fast or faster than normal, when you get to the end, you're going to have to shape and lean a bit faster, or a bit harder, sorry, more into the corner, left or right. Otherwise, you'll fall over and go over the handlebars. Now, if you're on a motorbike, it goes the other way. You get what's called counter sway. We're not going to get into that because none of you, well, I hope not, are riding your motorbikes with your knees touching the ground. Let's forget about that for the moment because that's dangerous. No one should be doing that. So something to consider when you're doing the waltz, every time you close your feet and you hold that position, you're going to be doing a sway. You're going to be swaying one way or the other. There are a few examples where we don't sway in waltz. One of them is the chassé. So when you do a chassé, it's got a side close side action to the left, side close side, or if you're dancing that as a lady, side close side to the right. Now, when you finish with your feet apart, you don't have any sway. So a chassé has got 4 steps. So if we do it after a whisk, you're going to step, I'm doing it as lady. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And it finishes with your feet apart. So there's no sway in that. So this only relates to figures where you close your feet and hold that position with turn. So a chassé, whilst a lady will turn a quarter to the left as she does it, it's only going from promenade position to closed position. So there's no sway on a chassé. Same in a quick step, there's no sway on a chassé in quick step either. When you do a spin in any dance, there's never any sway. So if I just spin on the spots, there is no sway. That's relevant for your spin turn. Now, the first 3 steps of a spin turn are the same as the first 3 steps of a natural turn. So you've got no sway, sway, sway. Now, as you then go into the spin, you go back to neutral, but then as you pivot round, there's no sway. And at the end of that, there's no sway either. However, when you get good, you have a little bit of sway to start with, and then after you spin, you may well show some lovely sway at the end of that. But that's later. That's when you've got control of your balance, when you've practiced it. Okay, but anytime you spin, and a spin or pivot, so the definition of a spin or pivot is a turn around a fixed point. So as you're pivoting here, you're on the spot, you're not going anywhere. We don't have any sway. There you can, when you develop your dancing, though, as I say, you can create some sort of artistic interpretation to that to make it look nice. But at the moment, there's no sway. All right? So for the lady, backside close, obviously swaying on the first 3 steps. Then as she goes forward, she goes to neutral. And then as she pivots round, there's no sway. But then as you come out of that, which normally would be a 4, 5, 6 of a reverse turn, the sway action comes back in again. And we have a nice bit of shape because it always looks nicer. And also it balances where we're going. So without the sway, we fall over because it's a balancing agent as well as being the inclination of the body towards centre of turn. Write that down, remember it. You're going to be tested later. Just quickly changing dances. Before we go to foxtrot, actually, we're going to talk about tango. There's no sway in tango. Now, one of the reasons we don't have any sway in tango is because we have no body flight. Now, again, that's another big topic, but just very briefly, when your body is in what we call flight, it's not real flight, of course, because we can't fly. As much as many of us try, we can't fly. So when we move forward, our body weight escapes out of our feet, creates rise, like this, which I'm going to talk about this another time perhaps. This is a little lead on to another discussion for another time. So your body weight goes outside of your feet, it releases your heels, which produces rise. So I didn't try and go off my toes at all, and yet I'm on my toes. Just by allowing the body weight to fall out of my feet. Okay, it creates rise. Now we don't have that in tango. Because we don't have that in tango, there's nothing to balance as such. Because when I do any kind of turn in tango, if I do a reverse turn for instance, you place your feet to where they're going to finish. So that at no point are you, or technically should you be, out of balance in a flight sense. So there's nothing to catch. There's nothing to counterbalance. So we don't have any sway in tango through the basic actions. Now, once you get a little bit more fancy, let's say an over sway, like something like that, we do have sway, but we call that broken sway because it's not coming from the, well, we feel it from the floor, but it's not the same as we'd have in waltz where we'd have a rise action, some sort of a lilting feeling. It's very clinical and shaped and sharp, and that comes from the body to create the illusion of enjoyment. Well, not so much the enjoyment there necessarily, but it just looks nicer, So that's something we do have, but it's not through the basic actions in tango at all, purely because there's no rise. There's no rise, there's no fall, there's nothing to catch, there's nothing to balance, so we don't need to worry in that respect. Foxtrot, however, is a little bit different. So foxtrot is mostly, foxtrot incorporates lots of straight line motion. So for instance, a feather step, if I dance it straight towards the camera, so I have my feather step, I'm coming towards you, there's no turn here, and yet I am swaying to the right. But that is, I think, mostly because of the visual. You want to make it look relatively nice. But there's also another thing to bear in mind. As I'm doing this, I'm moving outside the lady's feet. And the lady's turning her body to allow me to do so. So to facilitate that, it's important to have a little bit of stretch and lift to the left side so it gives you space for the right leg to swing forward outside the lady's feet. Now, without any sway, if I did something like that, it's going to be very difficult. Okay, I'm going to get blocked, it's going to be tricky, I won't have any space. So by having a bit of rotation, we had the same CBM, same as in the waltz, so we've got this little bit of turn through the body because I'm now going to lead with my left side outside the lady's feet. So this extra little stretch through the left side, as I do that, fellas, is going to allow me to step outside of her feet on the right foot, and in doing so produces some sway. Now we have a similar thing in the 3-step, where we go in between the lady's feet, like that, and again we produce a nice sway to the left. And again, it's about the visual aspect, but also because turn and sway are directly linked, as we discussed previously with the handlebars and all that. Now, whilst we haven't got the same degree of rotation or physical turn around the floor in the foxtrot on straight line steps, what we do have is obviously that we've got the bodies to combat with. So we've got a body glued to us in front of us. If I do a three-step, which goes in between the lady's feet, and I just come straight at her like this, it's going to knock her over. All right, she's going to feel very much like she's being attacked by her partner. So we have to combat that somehow, and in doing so, we rotate the body. So the body turns. Now, We talked about the turn earlier, didn't we? However much you turn depends on how much you sway. So you need to turn, and in doing so, we also need to produce some sway to make things look nicer and feel a bit nicer. So it stops you feeling awkward and doesn't make you look peculiar. Or was that the other way around? Was it stops you looking awkward and feeling peculiar? In either way around, it makes you look better. Now, the reverse turn and the natural turn, those figures still have sway in the same way that we'd have it in waltz. So typically at the end of a feather step, we would do a reverse turn, which turns to the right. So we'd have the CBM on the first step, the indicator, pop the indicator on to know that we're going to turn. And then as we step around the lady, we would be swaying to the left. And then as we step back on the left foot, we're still swaying to the left. And then before we do the last bit, step 4, we go back to neutral. And then we sway again on steps 5 and 6, which is identical to the reverse turn in waltz. We just don't close our feet. Likewise, on the natural turn in the foxtrot, we have the same principle again as well. So we sway into it, but on the very last bit, which is a bit different, the sway on that is not the same. The sway on the last bit is not the same. So perhaps that is again another discussion for another time. So the differences between the dances with the figures. As a general rule though, just to sum up really, as a general rule, if you turn, you will need to sway. And if you move forward a factor of 5 or backwards a factor of 5, you will need to sway a factor of 5. Because if they're imbalanced, you will be imbalanced and you will fall over. And then coupling that with your partner, you've both got to do the same thing. And it's all about feel, ultimately, at the end of the day. So what to me feels like a 2, for instance, to someone else could feel like a 25. All right, so it's important to practice these things. One of the things that one of my teachers a long time ago used to say to me was that you just do it. You just do it until you don't fall over anymore. And really, that's a great belief to have and a mantra to have, really. Just keep doing it until you stop falling over. That doesn't work with the restaurants on ice, though, unfortunately. That doesn't work in that respect, I think, because they're onto a losing battle from word go, really. But in terms of dancing, just keep doing it until it doesn't feel awkward anymore and doesn't look peculiar. I think that's important too. So, essentially, sway is the inclination of the body towards centre of turn. Remember that, write it down. And generally, you've got it all the time in all of the dances, except tango, because we haven't got any flight. I think we'll look at flight another time, perhaps. Anyway, that'll do for now. Hopefully that's given you an insight into a bit of sway. If you've got any questions, let us know. Cheers.
So there we go. Did you learn anything, Kelly?
I did.
Did you? Really? What did you learn?
I can't say.
Oh, so harsh. So harsh. I learned something.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that the light needs to be brighter. Because I had it on a dimmer setting and I didn't have it bright enough. I need to be a little bit more vivid because the camera doesn't pick up my features.
It was a bit of a soft focus.
Yeah, it was a bit soft focus. Yeah. So, yeah. So there we go.
Whereas tonight we're a little bit shiny.
We are a bit bright.
Not because we're actually shiny, but the light is so bright in here.
The end of last year, I got this new light that, in preparation for these sort of things.
It's like daylight.
It is. It's like, yeah, and I've not quite got the settings right. Like, perhaps I need to put a little bit of powder on my forehead. Yeah. I can turn it down so it's not quite so bright, quite so vivid.
I thought you did that. And then
I did. I can turn it down a little bit more. And I can make it warmer rather than colder.
Lost focus.
Yeah, it's not so good, is it?
Warmer is better.
Okay, we can go warmer.
We look more human.
Okay. All right, there we go. There we go. Anyway, so that was a bit of sway. Hopefully that was beneficial and informative for you all.
I was very impressed.
Thank you very much. You didn't know I did all that, did you?
No.
You had no idea?
No.
Yeah.
I had no part in it.
You had no part. No parts at all. Questions. That's what we're here for. We're here for questions. Aren't we?
Yeah. We need to know what you want us to talk about next week.
Yeah. And also if you've got any questions on what you've just watched. And I know a lot of you watched that. A lot of you watched that, didn't you? Yeah. There was a lot of people tuning in.
I was distracted at times. There is a animal in the room, and I don't mean him.
He's directly behind me, isn't he?
He's under here.
Oh, is he hidden? Is he hidden himself?
There he is. Hello. Bye-bye. He's just like, he likes to sleep behind cushions and stuff, so... Bless him.
The location, Margaret, is not relevant. What is relevant is the information. So you need to tell me, ask me questions about the dancing, not about the location, really. We can discuss that.
Pardon me.
Okay, so Ross says, why do I forget to close my feet in the waltz? Why do you forget? Well, I think you might know more about that than I do. Why do you forget to close your feet? Well, I don't know really why you forget. Practice. That's repetition.
That's practice.
So there's a basic action in waltz, which is the forward side close or back side close. That's repetitive over and over and over. You always close your feet on 3. Now, sometimes when you close your feet, of course, both heels are on the floor. When you do it incorrectly, your heels are on the floor, and then you're not sure which foot to go off on next. So footwork can play a strong part in making sure you remember what you're going to do next. So that's something we can perhaps do as a lecture or a workshop for next week.
Yeah, that's a good question.
But you've always got to close your feet. In basic actions in waltz, you've got to close your feet on 3. If you think about it, really, in normal life, we always step with our feet apart, don't we? We never close our feet. When we walk, we walk.
It's not a very natural thing to do, is it?
No.
It's not instinctive,
because
it's not intuitive, it's the opposite.
In terms of progression as well, you wouldn't get very far. It always reminds me, because I talk about this sometimes in lessons and stuff with people. Darren, I'm coming to you in a second. I've got your question. I'll come to you in a second. You might remember this, Darren, when we used to catch the bus home from school or on the way to school. I can't remember. There was an old fella up Hill Lane. He used to walk. I think it was either his left foot. I think it was his left foot. He used to lead with his left and close his right. Lead with his left, close his right. Lead with his left, close with his right. And it would take him forever. So we'd see him in the morning on the way to school, and by the time we're coming home, he's just at the top of Hill Lane. No, that's a joke. But obviously, this fella had a problem. Obviously, he had some sort of issue, and so he only stepped forward with his left foot and closed his feet. Forward with his left foot, closed his feet. So progression-wise,
he couldn't bring his right leg forward.
Yeah, essentially, whatever it was. So naturally, we step one leg forward and then the other leg forward. So naturally, that feels quite natural. So when we come to dance, to close our feet on every third step feels a bit weird initially, of course, if you haven't danced all your life. So that's perhaps why sometimes you don't want to close your feet, Ross.
I honestly think that's why a lot of people, when they first start learning to dance and they first learn waltz, they find it so difficult. It's because you have to close your feet on 3 all the time and change weights. Just doing that in itself, so bringing your feet together, closing and picking up the other foot is something to learn in itself. It's a habitual thing to learn. And it takes a little while initially, I think, doesn't it? Which is why when we first do waltz with anyone who's never danced before, we just do it again and again and again, and it's just repetition, so you just get into the habit of it. Yeah, and if you've been doing it for a while and you are still struggling, you then want to look at footwork, don't you? Because it could be that you're putting both heels down on the floor, and as soon as you do that, you've lost what foot you're on straight away. So
I think that's a different problem altogether, though, isn't it?
It is, but yeah, if you've been doing it for a while and you still can't remember which foot to go off, or if it hasn't become a habit to close and change weight, then it could be that you're landing on both feet. So
yeah, if you've got a heel down, you're stood on that foot.
You're putting weight on both
and if
feet.
you haven't got your
we
heel
never
down,
want weight in both feet.
No,
really.
that doesn't happen.
You only want on one foot at a time.
That only happens when I'm being masterful in rumba or cha-cha. But even then, when I was taught to do that, I always had one heel off the floor. Anyway, that's another topic for another time.
We're talking about waltz.
We are talking about waltz. I'm coming to you, Darren, don't worry. Sarah Ball has asked, if our partner does not sway, do us girls sway? Well...
really? I would say no.
I did say it's the responsibility of both parties to sway, and we've all got a job to do. However...
It's difficult, though,
it is tricky. Now, ladies, you are on the man's arms.
On top.
So ladies, you're always on top. Okay? You're always on top. So it means, of course, whatever we do underneath you, you have to follow. So if we don't sway, you don't typically sway, because this is another lecture. This is partnering skills. So the best lady dancers are the ones that literally mould themselves to their man and do exactly what they do to feel just like as though you're two bodies as one. Of course, in in developed dancing, we are interacting with each other and moving with each other and reacting to what the partner is doing. So it's important that the lady does her job when she needs to, because if Kelly and I did a natural turn or a feather step, I would want Kelly to be swaying to the left on step 1 and pulling to the centre of turn to give me the ability to go past her. If she didn't do that, I'd have to do all the work myself, and that becomes taxing in time, over time. So it's important that the lady knows what she's supposed to do, provided the man does his job. So it's important that you both do your job. However, in a social environment or a less experienced competitive environment, really your job as a lady is to do exactly what the man does, be it right or wrong. You're not allowed to say anything until you get off the floor, and then you can hurl abuse, you can brush his teeth with a shoe brush, whatever you need to do.
Well, assuming that he knows to sway.
Of course, if he doesn't know to sway.
If he hasn't learned how to do it yet, then you can't really abuse him.
Yeah, true. Fair enough. But in real terms, though, Sarah, no. You do what's happening in front of you, unless of course you're more experienced. Then you imply in lead. So the lady, so whoever's moving backwards actually has a big responsibility and can help a great deal. So when you move backwards into an action and when you sway backwards, you can really help your partner to dance forward past you. And if you think about it, you're as a lady anyway, you're on top of the man's arm. So if you feel like this is not what I want you to do ever, to pull down. If your weight goes downward, though, it's actually very easy to make your partner do something. So if you're
if you pull down
shaping
on one
and turning
side more, you can.
It's very easy to lead.
It
you can
somewhat.
instigate them
Yeah.
if you know what you're supposed to do, providing, of course, the man then doesn't collapse because he's got his arms propped. If he then collapses, of course, it's no good. No good. But so it really, the answer to your question, Sarah, is yes and no.
Well, I as a rule of thumb, I would say that we never instigate sway particularly in basic actions. There might be something, in a competitive routine that might be a little bit different, but generally the ladies don't instigate sway. We are reacting to what the man does. So it's a very fine balance for us to be able to react and then create an action that doesn't then hinder or overbalance us as a partnership. There you go. Does that sound good?
This sounds very good.
Just came up with that one.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, if I was teaching someone, me personally teaching someone to sway, I would help them somewhat. So but because I know what to do, I would use my body to make it happen. But ultimately, I don't want to do that as a lady dancer. I want the man to do it, and I want to react to it, and then I can embellish it or not, depending on how much he does.
The lady's role is very difficult because I want Kelly to wait for my signal, but then as soon as I give her the signal might be this. As soon as I give her the signal, I want her to go 10 to the dozen. So she needs to react to that instantaneously. So
sometimes you want me to do a lot, and sometimes you don't want me to do much at all. It depends
difficult.
on the step.
It's difficult.
It's step specific, I think.
Yeah, it's difficult. So there we go. So in answer to your question, no backwards leading unless, of course, you're dancing with me, in which case I'd want you to do it when I tell you to do it.
I think
it does.
The difficult thing with that, it does, but we mustn't anticipate it either. And this is the hard job of the lady, is that we're supposed to react like that, but we mustn't anticipate, so we mustn't be ahead of the game and thinking, he's going to sway now, and just go for it, because it's got to come from him, otherwise it won't look right, it won't look natural, and two, you'll probably imbalance the partnership again. So it is to really do it. Following, I always say, leading and following are both skills. You always I think people tend to think, I just follow, but there's more to it than just sort of switching off and going with the flow. You do actually have to learn how to follow as well, don't you?
Absolutely. Never sway too early as well. So sway is always out of the foot rather than into the foot as well. So that's something to bear in mind. Sway is always coming. I was waiting for you to cough. And
Sorry.
I was going to talk afterwards. So the sway is always coming out of a step rather than into a step. So if you sway into a step, you basically dance into a hole. You don't want to dance into a hole. Yeah. So
and your head doesn't always go with the sway, does it?
No. Well, that's another thing.
That's another topic.
Yeah, generally speaking, for a man, you always want to keep your head over your left foot. Generally speaking, even if you look to the right, you want to keep your head over the left foot. Darren had a question: what's the oldest ballroom dance? I would say it's the waltz.
Yes, I would.
It's definitely the waltz. Quick step came about in the early 1900s.
Foxtrot was a bit of
Foxtrot was around the
20s.
20 sort of time.
Yeah.
Tango would have been
About the same
ballroom
time.
tango. No, well, ballroom tango is a derivative of Argentine tango.
yeah.
So Argentine tango does have a long history, but the waltz goes back to the gentry and that sort of thing. Back in the 1700s, I think. So the waltz essentially, not what we do
No.
exactly, but it does have a history back 1700s or so.
I don't know. What about the Viennese waltz?
Well, the Viennese waltz again has
Do you think
as
that
long.
might be older?
I think I don't know. I couldn't. I don't know.
Couldn't it be a toss up between Viennese waltz and waltz?
Yeah, I would say so.
As to
Yeah.
say which one was older.
Yeah.
So I've got a feeling because waltz.
Well, it's based on music, isn't
waltz
it? Of course.
was called the slow waltz, wasn't it? So
No, the English waltz.
the English waltz.
English waltz.
Was called the slow waltz.
No, it's just called the English waltz because there was the Viennese waltz and the English waltz.
So I would maybe say then the Viennese waltz is the oldest.
I think the English waltz.
Don't know. We'd have to look that one up.
Anyway, that's a question for us to look up.
We
don't always know the answers.
I have looked that up before. I do remember looking, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I think maybe it's Viennese.
I think that Darren's asked that question knowing the answer.
He's probably googled it.
He knows the answer and asked us that. Yeah.
See
So
if we know it.
yeah, Ray's asked a question. Does the sway help the male partner to keep top line position? And I struggle with that. My arms tend to drop. No, sway actually can hinder it. So, really, to start with, Ray, you need to establish a strong top line before you worry too much about producing a lot of sway. Now, knowing your dancing as I do, you don't need to worry too much about sway at the moment. Your priority should be developing a strong top line.
I always think when you're learning to dance, get the scaffolding in place first.
Yes.
So stand up, get your arms up.
Yes.
If you can do that pretty consistently, then you can start to add in a little bit of sway. But if without the scaffolding in place, then it can all tend to fall apart, and you don't want that. So yeah. If you're not swaying at the moment because you can't keep the arms fixed and things like that, then I wouldn't worry too much, would you?
No.
You might still, and the thing is, you have to remember when you're first learning to dance, everything feels awkward and everything feels difficult.
Yeah, there's so much to take
none of
on
it
board.
feels very good, really, to start with, does it?
No.
So you have to kind of.
Well, we can't really remember if we're honest.
No,
we
we were
really
kids.
can't relate to someone who starts dancing at 55
No, we were kids when we danced.
because we were children. Of
But
course.
I do have memories of feeling really stressed at times and feeling quite uncomfortable at times doing certain steps and things like that, and I think it must be to do with that, because when you're first learning, you're quite limited as to what you can do to start with because you're still learning, so you kind of have to go through.
Structure is everything. Structure
we
is
call it the ugly stage.
Yeah, you've got to be structured. You've got to be strong. So
and that's not derogatory saying
No,
ugly
no,
stage.
no,
It's just
not
a
at
little bit
all.
of a fun joke between us. But even when we got together, whenever we changed,
She was so ugly.
when we changed. Shut up! I'm trying to say something serious.
Sorry.
Whenever we changed something about the way we were dancing, we always said it would always feel really awful, and you'd watch it, say on a video, and think, well, actually, it looks quite good, or looks normal, or whatever. But it'd always feel kind of uncomfortable because it was different. So I think whenever you're learning something new, it doesn't always feel comfortable or look that great necessarily, or at least you don't think it does because it feels out of your comfort zone or whatever. Yeah.
Your body gets used to a certain normality,
and then it
change
starts
that,
to feel normal.
Yeah.
And then in dancing, you change it again because you want to get better.
Yes. But structure is everything, so it's important to be strong because unless you've got strength, you can't produce any softness.
Structure first.
Structure first.
Yeah.
Structure first, because that bit of upholstery on that sofa, without the wooden frame underneath it, looks like just nothing, a pile of rags, doesn't it? So It's no good having a beautiful fabric unless it's got a beautiful, strong structure to drape over it. It's full of the lovely analogies. Now, Darren says that, so given that, and what ladies in particular used to wear with corsets, etc., sway as we see it today must have become more accentuated over time. Well,
yes, definitely.
yes.
I would say, yeah.
Now, sway, as I said in the little video, is directly proportional to the amount of movement you make forward or backwards and the speed at which you turn. Now, dancing historically didn't move very much, so they were very static. If we go right back to when it first originated, a lot of it was in hold anyway, because they weren't allowed to touch each other. They could only hold hands,
Yeah, it was like
ankles
this,
covered. Don't get too close.
wasn't it?
So there's no real need for sway in that respect. Now, once bodies became close and then you started moving as one, then you've got to factor in a bit of sway. Now, then if you increase the movement across the floor, sway then has to increase as well
to cope with it.
to cope with the amount of movement. And that's something that's changed dramatically in the last 20 years in dancing, because you'll see all sorts of shapes now that are as a direct result of the movement. The movement didn't used to be there because it was all about the beauty of the action and the use of the feet, the lovely rise, the lovely lowerings,
And if
music.
anything, the top line, it was better for it to be quite still.
Yeah, the
wasn't it?
top line didn't do anything. It was very
not
held.
too much movement at
So
all.
now everything's grown exponentially because that's happened. Sway's had to increase, but ultimately it's directly proportional to movement forward and backwards. But I don't think it's necessarily related to corsets, because back then I think when ladies were wearing corsets they weren't moving in the same way. But yeah, a corset would reduce sway, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
So maybe we should.
Do you know about corsets?
I know about
what
corsets.
they would do to women's waists.
I know about corsets. I've worn corsets.
Oh my goodness.
I used to wear corsets all the time before we got together.
Yeah, I bet you
Yeah,
did.
I used to work at Funny Girls in Blackpool.
I bet.
No, you didn't. No, I didn't. Yeah. So there we go. What was another question? We didn't have any, did we? Really?
That gave us a good old little rant, didn't it? And
It
then,
did.
Not a rant, you know what I mean.
So Margaret had a question. So we got something that we can think about for next week. So Margaret said about ladies clinging on. Yeah. Yeah. That's core.
But that is mostly
It's the core. It's the core.
Yeah.
Your body.
I think the sooner you learn how to stand up well within yourself and feel strong, the less you feel the need to do that. I mean, and again, thinking about my own experience, I learnt to dance from when I was very young, so it's hard to remember what it felt like. But I think when you're a kid, it's a little bit different. But I do remember like lots of partners saying, "Don't lean on me," you know, whiny voices, of course, because they were boys. And I think over time I became quite scared to lean on anyone, to the point where I was accused of being too light. So I think when I danced with you, you said you're a bit too light
Yeah, you're
sometimes.
still too
You know,
light.
I didn't want to put any weight on you at all. And when I say put weight on a partnership, it's not through the arms, it's purely through using your own weight. So I think dancing is, especially, ballroom dancing is very much about learning your own weight. And when you're very balanced over your own 2 feet and you know your own weight and you know how to use your weight, you can use it in a way where you're actually quite strong, but still light, so you're not a hindrance to your partner, because your partner doesn't want you to be like a feather completely, do you? Because if you are, then he can't do anything with you.
If you think, I always think of it this way. So if I've got a cricket ball or a feather, I can throw the cricket ball much further. I can do something with the cricket ball. With the feather, I can just throw it, and it's a bit of a
It doesn't do
it's a
anything.
girly throw, isn't
Yeah,
it? It doesn't really
yeah.
go anywhere.
Yeah.
So when you've got mass, when you've got weight, you can do something with it. You haven't got to manufacture anything.
It's not about holding yourself like really lightly. It's about actually being quite strong.
Well, it's
within
it's an internal feeling.
yeah, very internal.
It's a strong internal
Yeah.
feeling that you
Yeah.
can do on your own. You don't need someone
Well,
to do it
that's
with
the
you.
best way to describe it, actually, is that you should be able to feel it. You could dance on your own. So if you could say go through a routine on your own, yes, your balance might be challenged and all that sort of thing, but if you can do it on your own, then when you get with a partner, it's going to be that much better.
Mm.
It really is, and that's for both sides of the coin, you know.
Yeah.
So for the man and the lady. So I think when people learn to dance together, especially like couples who learn to dance together, become quite reliant on each other, and they learn each other's little quirks and things, don't they? So they help each other along a lot of the time. which in some ways can be a bit of a hindrance to their development, because actually if you're dancing on your own a lot or with different partners, you don't learn those cues. You are very much more, relying on yourself. So in a lot of ways, that's a lot better, I feel. Yeah, the more you can do it on your own, the better you'll be when you do it with a partner, and your balance will improve.
Good evening.
Hello, darling.
I've got a spot on my nose. Have you noticed?
Yeah,
I know, I've just noticed
Do you know what?
it.
I think it's come up
Yeah.
during this
I
session.
know.
Yeah, because it wasn't there to start with, I'm sure.
Well, there's a little blemish.
Yeah, it's come up.
Can you Adam and Eve it? It's drinking this apple juice.
Maybe it is.
The apple juice that's created the spot.
It's Buddy and Ella together now.
You're right. Say hello to the millions of people at home watching. Millions.
Hello.
You've got tomato sauce around your mouth.
They can't see it.
He'll lick it if he gets any chance anywhere near your face. He'll lick it off.
Well, there's no
He's a bit
tomato
too
sauce.
subdued. Bless him. He's all tired and
let's see
sleepy,
that
aren't you?
dot.
Pardon? You want to see the spot?
Yes.
Oh, thanks very much.
Tiny. It's tiny.
Is it? Off you go. Are you taking him downstairs?
Yes. As soon as he's calm, I can deal with it.
So Margaret says she understands the concept, but it's maintaining it. Unfortunately, it's just doing it, Margaret. Constantly,
Yeah.
every day, without fail, all the time.
You know the old thing I do? If you go up on your toes and you feel like you're zipping up the tightest pair of jeans and the highest pair of jeans ever, that helps. But as you do that, you also do that. And that gives you a sense of strength in the core.
Balance plays a big role as well, because if you're off balance, you're always going to grab hold with your hands, because we've got opposable thumbs. Because we've got thumbs, we just hold. Allowed a snack?
A
You
snack?
just had dinner.
She's
You
had-
growing.
she's
You
had-
look tall.
She is tall. Doesn't she look grown up?
No, I don't.
You do. You look like a little teenager. I don't like it.
It's a very good question just come in. This is for you, Ella. This question is for you. The question is Buddy allowed to walk anywhere, or does he have to be carried?
Who said that?
I'm not telling you in a moment.
Oh, okay.
Better latter than never. I know that is. John and Teresa.
He does get carried a lot by this one.
Why do you carry him everywhere?
He's going to forget he's got legs.
He has. It's pointless. It's pointless for having legs. If we carried you everywhere, you'd end up forgetting how to use your legs, wouldn't you?
No, I wouldn't. If I used them once, I would know how to use them a lot of times, even though if you just pick me up.
Is that the same for
pick me up.
dancing?
Leave the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just got to learn it once and
Learn
then
it
you
once.
know how to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To just learn it once and then you know.
You know
how
when
to
you were
do
a
it.
baby you didn't learn it all at once. You learned pretty quickly though. Bless your little heart.
That's
running along the
why I
floor.
want to be.
We're not.
That's why I want to be a grown up quickly.
You don't want to be a grown up
Yes,
quickly,
I do.
trust me.
Yes, I do.
No.
Yes, I do.
Ella,
Yes, I do.
you're distracted. We're trying to be quite sensible tonight.
Give us a kiss and go and see to Buddy. He shouldn't be on his own. Come on.
Yes.
Yes. Go and find something.
Did we watch Pooch Perfect last night? No, we did not, Margaret. I'm afraid. I was too busy preparing tonight's.
I don't know
Workshop.
what we did last night.
I don't- what day-
Fun.
We went to bed early. Well, we fell asleep on the
We
sofa
did fall
last
asleep
night.
quite early.
Yeah, we did.
No, Mummy's
No, we're still busy, darling.
I don't know why I should
Just choose something, Anna.
Anyway,
Go on then. You know what you want. Go and get them. Yes.
go on then, help yourself. Should we wrap this up?
Yes, I think so.
If anyone's got anything else, but we can just talk. They had a beautiful partner for Buddy. He's not getting a partner.
A partner.
Margaret says they had a beautiful partner for Buddy.
Who did?
Pooch Perfect.
Oh no.
Are you trying to partner up our dog before we've even had a chance to take him out?
No, he's he was meant to have his last injections yesterday. Was it yesterday?
Yeah.
And the day before, he had a bit of
Diarrhea.
diarrhea. There's no nicer way to put it. So
Runny poo.
So they've delayed that.
It's
Yeah,
horrible.
runny poo, really horrible. I don't know what he did. He must have got hold of something and ate it that didn't agree
Well,
with
we
him.
haven't noticed it. We didn't see him do anything like that.
And so for a day he had that. So they wouldn't give him the injection. But I got some medicine for him to make him feel better, which seems to be a lot better now.
Yeah.
Bless him. So
Yeah.
hopefully soon we can take him out properly. They did say I could take him out, but just not where there's any puddles.
We've been out twice, but it's been too wet, hasn't it? Really.
It's been too wet recently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so we haven't taken
we
him
need
out.
a nice dry day. We can take him out
Yeah.
until I can get him injected again. Yeah. So there we go.
Okay. So I think that unless anyone's got any more dancing related questions about anything, so I think next week we will be looking. Well, tomorrow we'll record some footwork things and
Footwork, posture, something else.
Where are
Yeah.
the balls? I can't find any.
Oh, I've moved everything. Don't worry, darling. I'll get you a bowl a bit later. Just take the packet.
I don't want to eat out of the packet.
The other drawer, then. Do you know where the other drawers are? So when you go in, the drawers are there. Check those ones.
But which one?
The ones on the left.
So as you look at the cupboard, as you look at it,
So you've got drawers on the right and you've got drawers on the left. Look at the ones on the left, the top one.
We've had too much time on our hands, and so today Kelly's decided to completely rearrange the kitchen and move everything around. So I'm going to be completely lost.
I've been clearing things out. So I've got rid of a box of stuff from the kitchen that I've decided we don't need anymore. And I've shuffled things around, so now it's all new.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And I'm going to keep going throughout the entire house.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't even know where we were. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Talking about what we're going to...
Yeah, so we'll come up with something
record
next week then. So
tomorrow.
no one has it. No, there's nothing pressing. Some people have mentioned some things.
Footwork, posture,
Yeah.
something else. I can't remember what
Thank you,
it was now.
Maria. Thank you very much. And now the video of the sway video that I pre-recorded and I showed you this evening is available on YouTube, and I'll share you a link to that if you want to watch it again. To watch it again,
And share it.
so share it around. Please
Share
do
it
share
around.
it to your dancing friends. It'll be online, and I'll share that in a moment when we stop the link. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to do it as we speak. Kelly's going to talk to you
No,
while I
don't
do
make
it.
me do that.
Yeah, well, you've been talking, waffling away.
Yeah, but when you say that, then you're like, oh, I don't know what to talk about now.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on, me.
Oh, come on.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
You know what I did there, don't you?
I know what you did there. Yeah,
I'm not sure I should have done that, but anyway, so that's what happens then. You get an awkward silence, and I don't
Yeah.
want that to happen.
Yeah. Well, yes.
I did think your video was very good, so James
Did
is going
it?
to
Kelly
share
didn't
it.
see it yet.
I hadn't seen it.
I hadn't seen it at all.
No.
Yeah.
Don't really get a chance. My entire days and nights are all about a certain puppy dog at the moment. It is very much like having a baby again. Very much. I'm a little bit stressed. He's lovely, but yes, we've had our challenges with him.
It has been tricky. It's been tricky. Yeah, he's got a bit of a problem with his bowels at times. He seems to like curtains, doesn't
Yeah, well, that's his bladder. Likes the
Yeah.
curtains that I've had to wash several times
I know.
now. So yeah, I don't really have much time on my hands
he?
to do anything else other than clean the house
Yeah.
and start getting rid of stuff.
Mm.
But hopefully we've found some solutions to things, haven't
Yes. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now.
we? Okay.
So I'll pre-record something tomorrow for next Friday. If in the meantime, if you've got any pressing dancing questions you want, you send them through to us and we can have a look and
Yeah.
come up with something for next week, perhaps.
And then if you want us to do anything else, then just
Yeah, I will make a point of doing the Wednesday class, solo class, the other way around, so I face away from you so that you can get a
Yeah.
chance to copy me. I understand that it's tricky. I like to face the camera, of course, when I'm talking rather than turning my back to you, so that's the reason I do it in opposite. But I'll do that for you as well. Obviously, I'll talk to you facing the camera. There's no point. I mean, if I had two cameras, I'm sure I could work it out to have two cameras at the same time, so you could have one with a little one in the corner of me facing you, and then one. Anyway, I'm sure I could do that, but it takes a bit of effort, and I'm not sure I can. I don't think we've got enough space to have two cameras in the dining
I
room.
don't think that would work.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work.
No.
Anyway, I'll do that. For those of you that join me on a Wednesday, I'll do it the other way around. So, like a normal class where you'd follow me from behind, I'll do that. And from next Wednesday as well, everything's going to be recorded anyway, so you'll be able to catch up later and watch it again. What we did on Wednesday, I've already got a little bit of. I've worked it out before the camera decided to overheat. I've got it, so I can upload what I've got recorded, so that you can look back at that. This, of course, is online. You can watch this now. You can watch this back, and I've just shared you the link to the video. I think we're done, Kel.
Okay.
I think we're done. We're going to go and have our dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Hope you all have a nice
You're gonna
weekend.
make it. He's been very good.
I'm going to
He's
make
been
it as
looking
well.
after us.
Yeah, and I think that's it, really, Kel. I think that's it.
It's nice to chat.
It is nice to chat. Yeah, not quite the same as we have been doing before.
We can do a little bit of that again if they fancy.
We can do, yeah.
Maybe we could do a one of just drinks night.
We
or
could do,
something.
couldn't we? We could do.
Mm.
Yeah. I think we're going to do we are going to do a one-off get together night of some description. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet.
Okay.
On a Saturday night, I can't think. I had an
The
idea
thing is,
earlier.
we don't know
I've
how
forgotten.
long. We don't know how long this is going to go
No,
on
we
for,
don't.
do we?
No, we don't know.
So it
No, we
could
don't
be.
know.
It could be years.
Yes, it could be years. Yes,
You'll
it could be
slowly
years.
see us go grey.
It could be years. Yeah. I just need to do something while just talk.
I was watching you. See, I tend to just watch.
Don't watch me.
And
Don't watch me, Cal.
tell me what to talk about.
Well, you can say goodbye. Thank you very much for watching and all that sort of thing.
Okay. Well, yeah. Hopefully we'll get back into the swing of things soon, and we'll just keep doing what we can. If there's anything you'd like us to cover, then do let us know. We'll do what we can. I don't know if you've not got any quizzes planned or anything like that.
No quizzes planned at the moment. I might well do something like that as a one-off special.
I think this one we're just going to play it by ear and see
Yeah.
how long it's all going to go on for and stuff like that. So, we'll do what we can when we can, and hope you all stay well.
Stay well, stay happy, stay dizzy feet, of course, and that's it really. If you've enjoyed this evening, please do, and you feel it's worthwhile, please do think about making a little contribution maybe as well. That'd be helpful.
We really appreciate what everyone has done so far. I mean, I don't think last March any of us ever thought it was going to keep going like this, so we appreciate it's very difficult.
We always live life to the full, don't we? And even if you hit stumbling blocks, you think, that's all right, I'm just going to do more work. I've always been I like to think I'd like to work hard and just do whatever I can, but no one ever expects that you're never going to be, just not going to be able to work at all.
Yeah.
No one expects that. It does make things pretty difficult, so
we didn't expect it to go on this long.
No.
I'm sure nobody else did either. This one does seem to be going slow, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. I've got a new little ending video I've done for you, and next week I'll have a new little intro for this as well. I'm working on a new little intro video for the question and answer session. Kelly's going to do some acting. It's brilliant. I can't wait. So look forward to that next week.
Not happy.
She's happy. She'd be fine. See you next week, ladies and gentlemen. See you Wednesday if you're with us. If not, see you next Friday. Don't forget, Matteo and Jessica will be back online on Sunday with some Latin American and salsa for you, and then stretching on Tuesday, and then you'll see me on Wednesday night. Take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Bye.